equality, for ability, for community, for connectivity, compatibility, promoting media literacy.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to 2025 World Day of Social Communication Week. Today is the 7th day, and my name is Reverend Father Robert Anaboso, the Director of Fides Media. I'm actually reaching you live and direct from our base here in Uno, Anambra State. Our topic for today is media and mercy, using digital media to promote forgiveness, reconciliation, and healing online and offline. And I will take this reflection in 3 different steps. The first step is to define the key terms of our relation, of our reflection. And then the second is highlighting the problems and challenges therein. And of course, the third will be profiling possible solution, because it's all about the solution. So, my decision to define the key terms is very, let me say, important, as I would like to say, because recently I saw a video trending online in YouTube, concerning a senator that was allegedly asked to define or explain what it means to harmonize. If this video is anything to go by in terms of veracity and authenticity, then we are in trouble, because the senator, the honorable senator, quote and unquote, sat down smiling and was unable to utter a single word of definition. If this is true, then there is trouble in the land. And by the time I was reflecting on this topic, I said, no, I cannot take for granted that each and every one of us understands the key terms of our reflection, as in, that we really know what they mean, at least in the context of the topic we are discussing. So I will take it one by one. For me, the key terms include, first of all, the media, because it's the media and mercy. So the media, what is the media? So it's the collective name for the main means of mass communication, such as broadcasting, publishing, and the internet. Through this, information is disseminated and news is given. Then the second one is digital media. This refers to the composite forms of media distributed electronically. That includes websites, social media, video games, and online advertising, etc. This is characterized by being created, viewed, and modified through digital devices, and is constantly evolving with the alarming advancement of technology. And this is important because it is the rule everywhere in our time. And then mercy, I said that mercy is compassion or forbearance shown especially to an offender or to one subject to one's power. When we talk of mercy, this compassionate, forbearance, we show to people who offend us, and or to people over whom we exercise some form of power. And in this case, the first example that should come to our mind is the mercy we receive from God. God is the ultimate power and authority, and we offend him each and every day. And that leads us naturally to the term forgiveness. It says it's the process of, willingly, this is important, willingly and willfully putting aside feelings. We put aside our feelings of resentment towards someone who has committed a wrong, who has been unfair to us, who has hurt us, who has harmed us in some way. So it is not merely accepting what happened or ceasing to be angry. No, it is something we willingly and willfully understand and try to put them aside in order to forge ahead. The next one is reconciliation. In a biblical sense, it signifies the restoration of a broken relationship. Important. Broken relationship, primarily between God and humanity, but also between individuals. It involves moving from a state of estrangement, conflict, or enmity to one of harmony. Talking about harmony, I'm reminded of the definition of to harmonize. So of harmony, peace, and fellowship. So reconciliation is often associated with forgiveness, healing, and the establishment of a renewed relationship. And this is where it begins to get interesting, because these things are tied together in this one whole topic of media and mercy. So how can we use the media to promote mercy through reconciliation, forgiveness, online and offline? This is our point of, discussion. So going further, we talk about healing. It says it's a process of becoming whole through integrating our wounds, hurts, it is by first of all acknowledging and embracing the parts of ourselves that we have long rejected in order to regain our strength to carry on with authentic things we aspire to do. You see, the healing is a process, so it's not something that happens once and for all. No, it's an ongoing thing, because we carry these hurts, this feeling of hurts each and every day, but we must make a concerted effort to understand them, acknowledge them, and then make them one of the things, instead of being a weakness to us, it becomes a strength. So these things we are expected to promote, and the topic says online and or offline. So what is online? It refers to an activity or a service available on or performed using the internet or other computer network. Like when you have your data, and everyone knows this, I guess, once you go online, people use their Facebook, their TikTok account, and rest of them, to perform activities. And actually, it is these or one of these activities that we are talking about, how these things promote or should promote peace, should promote reconciliation and healing, and so on and so forth. Then offline is simply the opposite, performing these similar activities without the use of internet or other computer network, which you can one-on-one or in a group, and so on and so forth. So that's the first part. Then it leads us to the second part of this discussion, highlighting the problems or challenges. It's easy to enumerate challenges and problems, and we have a lot of them in our society today. So as such, you can see that this is a very interesting topic, because given the rate of hurts, hates, disagreement, rage, divisions we find in all strata of our current society, beginning from the family. See, the family of Jesus, we say the father against the mother against the father, the children against the parents, and parents against the children, and so on and so forth. From our villages, and towns, and the larger Nigerian society. And this society is also found online, as we already explained what online means, activities we do by the means of connecting to the internet, and then offline at the same time. So currently, our society is filled with so much rage and anger, frustrations and animosities, all along ethnic, tribal, religious, political, economic divides. Name them. You can't imagine what goes on the road, for instance, in a traffic. How people curse each other, how people demonstrate a strong feeling of resentment, to people you have never seen before, just because you felt, I don't know, the person is trampling on your rights or something of that nature. This is important because communication is about this type of relationship, whether near or far, and so on and so forth. So these tensions are caused by so many factors, too numerous to mention here. Today we can talk of political marginalization, which is real, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not. It's real. We see it every day. Political exclusion, sophisticated and organized killings, crimes that apparently seek to wipe out ethnic groups. We see that in our current day Nigeria. Talking about the Plateau, the Middle Belt and the rest of them, all those Benue State and the rest of them far north. So these things are real. So they are real. You can't imagine such a thing, that people will forcefully seek to, throw a particular group of people off their ancestral homes and lands and are bent on occupying it, with this wanton, killings and bombing and burning. So these are real things, are realities of us today. So lately we talk about internally displaced persons. For instance, how can you be talking about such a thing in a country that is not known to be, at least officially or formally, at war, or that we are threatened by serious natural disasters? So how can people be displaced in their own home, in their own land? That sounds very crazy, but this is our reality today. So the seriousness of these allegations, is hurting and destabilizing. These are realities. And it is being said that some of them are even being sponsored, by the political class, who obnoxiously seek to plant the so-called divide and rule tactics as a way of either gaining power or remaining in power. And that brings a lot of issues. The issues of terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, which has turned into money jackpots lately. The effects and the consequences of this reality take their toll on the citizenry and pitch them against each other. This is very evident because if you go online today, we talk of the so-called social media influencers and people who are there 24/7 online, one rooting for a particular, let's say, party or politician or individual, governor, even the president, and others against. And you need to see the hate, the insults, coming out from people defending their own beliefs. So, and why this is going on among the fellow citizens, among fellow folks, the people we tend to defend or fight for are constantly uniting. Uniting in what? In making us divide ourselves so that we can't even have one voice to speak of the real issues in our land, the real issues of injustice, the real issues of bad governance, the real issues of poverty, and so on and so forth. So with all these things we are doing, we are divided. And the people who divide us, they are constantly uniting, as I said. So behind the screen, they do these things, and the result is the detriment of the folks around. So notwithstanding that, the fact that some of the anger and frustrations are genuinely well placed, yet none is justified, given the greater harm that is caused by their executioners. Hence, the relevance of this topic of today. So, and what is the solution? This is the most important part. The general theme of this year's World Communication Day, from which we gleaned today's topic, was given by the late Pope Francis as far back as September 24, 2024. In his message, which accompanied this theme, you know. He called on the media and media practitioners to become agents of peace and hope, you know, practicing a communication that mediates, you know, mercy. This we can call mediation communications, or communicators for those who practice it. And I take it as one of the solution how we can, online and offline, use the media, you know, to become mediators, you know, bringing people together in order to effect this issue of mercy, this issue of reconciliation, forgiveness, and healing, because it is very, very important, you know, given the level of frustrations and anger, you know, we see. But it's also a challenge because the communicator you are talking about, someone like myself, you know, journalists, reporters, and so on and so forth, they also bear their own individual frustrations and anger. I mean, someone who actually experiences the evils of this present day, you know, talk of someone whose father or mother or relative is kidnapped and actually killed. Talk of someone who whole family is wiped out. So how would you expect that person, if he's a journalist, not even if he's a journalist, doesn't really need to be a journalist, you know, so how can that person recount his story or her story? How can the person express it in such a way that still we are pursuing that overall noble agenda of making sure that the news or information communicates actually mercy, peace, and so on and so forth? This is important. But then we must have to look at the figure of Pope Francis, because we can find an example, you know, and learn from his experiences and struggles, you know, concerning this mediation communication. So to me, putting forward this theme of hope and message that accompanied it wasn't a product of a casual thought, you know, talking about Pope Francis. I think it was actually from a deep sense of conviction about the hope of man in God's mercy. This is the point, the hope of man in God's mercy, you know, which is in fact the only sure ground of salvation. So remove God's mercy, there's nothing like salvation, because actually salvation means, you know, that God came to us in spite of ourselves, forgave us, and gave us leeway of coming back to Him. So that is mercy in actual fact, in reality. And actually, one of the Eucharistic prefaces, you know, the prayer we say at Mass, you know, before the proper prayer of consecration. So one of them says, you know, God the Father, in love you created man, in justice you condemned him, but in mercy you redeemed him. So I dare say that this is the whole purpose of Pope Francis was defined by his insistent message of hope and mercy. You know, he preached these things to the point of being misunderstood by a lot of church authorities and faithful. You know, a classical example would be his stance on LGBTQ, you know, issues. You know, talk about the lesbians, the gay, you know, the bisexual, the transsexual, and those still questioning whether they are male or female. So the issue was and still is a hotly debated topic. So that actually got Pope Francis, you know, misunderstood. You know, it has been described as evolving and nuanced. You know, while he maintained the traditional teaching of the church that homosexual acts are sinful, he at the same time called for greater inclusion and condemned laws criminalizing homosexuality. My point of emphasis is this inclusion, because more often than not, this card of exclusion is played, you know, by people who wear the power over media, over everything, you know, authority or governance, you know, that kind of a thing. So, but Pope says, much as their acts are sinful, but we need to bring them to a level where these things are discussed, and you really begin to know why and how these things, are done. So it says this hasn't gone down well with many people within and outside the church, but he took that risk, and this is the point. We shall always take that risk of, conveying this issue of mercy and hope, because it is from there that we begin to talk about forgiveness, reconciliation, healing. Remember the healing part of our definition, that it helps us to move on to do the authentic things we can do. So if there's no healing, it's very, very detrimental to the whole process of communication, as we see it today, because there are so many hurts here and there, so. And the church and the society has not really fared, badly on that, because today talks are ongoing, dialogues are ongoing, at least for now, concerning the position of the lesbians, the gay, the bisexual, the transsexual, and so on and so forth in the society, also in the church. So I think that one of the many ways by which we can promote forgiveness, reconciliation, and healing, online and offline, is by putting issues in proper perspective and creating room for dialogue. This is important. The LGBTQ is a thorny and irritating issue. So also is the issue of marginalization. Rape, for instance, human trafficking, child abuse, sex slavery, ostracization, political banditry, ethnic hatred, injustice, rape on democracy, election rigging and thuggery, government corruptions, and all the ills that are holding down our society, can be discussed frankly and common beneficial solution found. So, and at this point, I think I have to conclude by giving an example of what I see one young man, do online. There is this guy that is called Peter Aka, or Randy Peter, aka Peter for Nigeria, because he said Peter for Nigeria, who is currently championing and clamoring for electoral reform with one fundamental demand: making the use of IREV by INEC compulsory, mandatory, that they should transmit the result of each and every polling station straight from that polling station to the IREV. Why did I cite this example? As you all know, if you go online, you will see so many ranting and pitching themselves against each other on social media, defending one politician or the other, condemning one politician and the other. And like I said before, these things create at least two visible divides, two camps, one in opposition, one in support. And in a process like that, people can never agree. And the worst part of it is that this is exactly the intention of these political bandits, that we never agree on something. But what is this young man doing? Instead of throwing the part of others who are for or against particular political party or particular politician or the rest of them on any issue at all, he chose to rally all across boards and divides to this common, according to him, is the common cause of our Nigerian problem: the inability to get our elections correct. So recently he has called on the clergy. I remember him about 1 week ago calling on Bishop Kuka as the chairman or the convener of this election piece, whatever. And he read out a lot of names. The emirs and the imams, the bishops and the pastors, the priests, everyone, all groups. And eventually he's narrowing down on the prominent so-called social influencers, calling them What is the point of the calling? That, look, we are talking about Nigeria problems. To me, this is the bedrock of Nigerian problems. This is the mother of all problems. That as soon as we get our elections correct, people will have the power to vote in whoever they want to vote. Because the problem is that when a politician gets into power, knowing that he didn't come in there with the force or the power of the vote of the people, you cannot hold him accountable. And that's the problem. You cannot hold him accountable. And when you cannot hold him accountable, he does whatever he wants. And in the next so-called election, he is sure to come in again because he doesn't depend on your vote. Their vote doesn't count. So this young man is saying, if we fix INEC, if we fix and make sure that the system where people vote and their votes count and are counted, whoever goes in as the governor or whatever position, political position, electoral position he's running for, knows that if he messes up, that in the next election he'll be voted out. And you see, according to him, and I believe him too, a good number of Nigeria's problems will be solved. And believe you me, that call is gathering storm. So you see, he's been able to galvanize people, and so many are queuing in under one single common purpose, as against people in their own comfort room, ranting and insulting whoever he thinks that is against his man or his party. So it's no longer about the persons or the individuals or the groups. No, it's about the common good. And in common good today, what is making Nigeria the way it is right now, because we cannot hold our leaders accountable. It's an open secret. No one can argue against that. So, as communicators, as journalists, as writers, as people who inform others, what we need to do is actually using the power of communication of the media to promote this issue of gathering people to understand that, first of all, that media is there to solve essential problems. And before you can solve it, you must first of all understand it. When you have understood it and seen the harm that is already committed or that already committed, then you begin to profile solution. And one of them is, first of all, making sure that people understand this, forgive each other, reconcile with each other, a healing will come out. And from that, people are prepared to do the authentic things they need to do. This is the role of media. This is the role of media, proper media, mediation media, communication. This is what the Pope calls it. He didn't use these terms like this, but from what we understand, personally I understand. So I propose this mediation communication in the sense that it helps us, solve common problem without actually pitching people against others, which promotes division, cause, harm, and so on and so forth. So here we call it a day on this topic. And once again, I'm Father Robert Anaboso, the director of Fides Media. And I say to you, happy World Day of Communication, which we are actually celebrating tomorrow, Sunday, 1st June 2025. And in your own personal life, in your own interpersonal relationship, either in the family, either in the company, and so on and so forth, make sure that the way you speak, the way you communicate, the way you relate, is a way that seeks to promote mediation, trying to reconcile people, reconcile issues in openness, in frankness, and in dialogue. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.
Community talking, community acting, communication, the way to go. Community talking, community acting, communication, the way to go.
Welcome week, communication,
Communicate.
for ability, for community, for connectivity, compatibility, promoting media literacy.